Signed a petition calling for the release of papers relating to the 1989 Hillsborough tragedy in which 96 Liverpool fans died. It means MPs are likely to hold a Commons debate on the issue. Our political editor, Arif Ansari, is here to explain the process. And first of all, Arif, what is this petition precisely calling for?
Well, this is part of an ongoing campaign for information. More than 110,000 people have signed it. And it specifically asks for full government disclosure and publication of all documents, discussions and reports relating to the disaster as requested by the Information Commissioner. Now, that is a rather ambiguous statement because on the one hand, it's asking for full disclosure of everything. On the other hand, what the Information Commissioner has asked for, and what he has asked for isn't everything. He's asked for papers relating to April 1989, which relates to Margaret Thatcher's discussions in Cabinet, that kind of thing. But campaigners welcome the move.
I can see where the people are coming from signing this petition. They're backing the families. You can't help but be humbled by that and thank all these people for that. And I think the government now has got to listen to the people. We've been saying it for 22 years. Give us the truth of Hillsborough. We deserve it now after all this time. Let us all be able to sort of get on with our lives, have closure on Hillsborough, but give us the truth.
But the government aren't happy about releasing these confidential documents.
No, they're not. Now, you'll remember the Labour government set up an independent panel to look at all documents, and the government saying, let's leave it for them to decide. This is the statement that was released by the Cabinet Office. The Cabinet Office absolutely agrees with the principle of providing information to families, but we believe it's important that any release of information should be managed through the panel's process. Now, that is slightly disingenuous because what they're not allowed to do is release any documents which show ministerial disagreement. Now, it might be that there is no ministerial disagreement, in which case they can release it, but if there is, then they can't.
So, 100,000 petition has now been achieved. Does that definitely mean there'll be a debate in the House of Commons?
It means that there's definitely have to consider it. And this isn't a decision made by the government. This is a decision that is made by Parliament and by backbench MPs. The problem is they've got lots of things that they want to debate, so there is time pressures, but I think if they were to ignore it, they'd be in trouble.
Arif, thank you very much. Blackpool has been remembering a local hero. 40 years ago today, Superintendent Jerry Richardson was shot dead and remains the most senior police officer to die in the line of duty. He was awarded a George Cross after being murdered following an armed robbery at a jeweller's. Well, Nina Warhurst, our reporter, is at the scene of that murder now. Nina.
Good afternoon, Gordon. Well, it might have been 4 decades ago, but honestly, everybody we've spoken to here in Blackpool remembers it like it was yesterday. In fact, one man we spoke to said, while people across the world remember the death of JFK, everybody here in Blackpool remembers the name Jerry Richardson, because Blackpool was left stunned when a jeweller's just up here on the Strand was targeted. The robbers took with them £100,000 worth of stock. And after the dramatic chase that followed, one of the community's most respected men lost his life. A young and popular superintendent, known locally for refusing to sit behind a desk and wanting to be on the front line. When Jerry Richardson took on an armed robber, it was to be his final act of bravery. He was shot in the stomach at point blank range. PC Carl Walker was with him on that day.
He treated all the men well. You get people in services in that uniform, they tended to become bullies, but he didn't. He called everybody officer. If you had a problem, you went and spoke to him, and he discussed it with you and sorted something out. Always approachable. Always there to help.
Hundreds gathered to witness his killer, Frederick Joseph Sewell, being brought to justice. Earlier, thousands had lined the streets for the funeral of a man who still lives on in local memory. Today, a plaque and a bench were unveiled in his honour.
I think it's absolutely wonderful that a small community like this wishes to honour Jerry. You know, I think it's lovely that he's still remembered.
Today's memorial service was described as a bittersweet occasion for one who laid down his life so that a community could be safe. And as his gravestone reads, "For justice and law, good men must die, but death cannot kill their names."
Well, Gordon, lots of those people that we spoke to at the memorial service say they remember Jerry as loving to give his time, donate his time, helping out young people, and perhaps the most fitting tribute to him is that a charitable foundation has been set up that still helps thousands of people from this region 40 years after his death.
Nina, thank you very much. An investigation is underway after a man who was restrained by police using pepper spray died in hospital less than 2 hours later. The 25-year-old was arrested for a fray in Widnes yesterday and taken to Runcorn police station where he became unwell. The northwest is rapidly becoming one of the country's most important areas for offshore wind turbines. But with plans for more wind farms, there's concern about where to put them without damaging wildlife. Now a specialist company is using cutting-edge aerial photography to get the answers. Our environment correspondent Colin Sykes reports.
Getting ready for some high-tech bird watching.
We're going to do a survey off Frill, remaining not above 1,500 feet. We're flying at around 1,000 feet high, which is high enough for the company to get the data they need, but not so low as to cause problems for the birds and the other wildlife down in the sea.
Images are captured on a brand new 340,000 camera. The company is one of the first in the world to use it for this purpose.
Flying at this altitude allows us to fly high enough so we don't disturb any of the birds, but it also allows us to fly at sufficient altitude to capture the high resolution images that we need. Typically that's about 2 centimetres ground resolution for the surveys that we need to undertake.
Offshore turbines are appearing right along the northwest coastline, with more in the pipeline, the latest at Barrow. But the new ones are big as Big Ben, and the blades as long as the biggest aircraft. In the wrong location, they could put wildlife at risk. The surveys will determine exactly where the next generation of turbines can be sited, without damaging the coastal wildlife. Colin Sykes, BBC Northwest Today, Liverpool Bay.
Now, the BBC television series Waterloo Road is to move out of the northwest and be filmed and set in Scotland instead. The drama has been based at a school in Rochdale for the last 6 years. Producers say it has outgrown the site. Eleanor Moritz reports.
This is minging.
Yeah, 'cause you're here.
Do you want your head kicked in?
Right, you.
It's one of the most successful shows on BBC One, attracting more than 5 million viewers. Waterloo Road has won awards for its gritty storylines based in a secondary school. Filmed entirely on location in a disused school building on a Rochdale housing estate, the independent company behind it, Shed Productions, turned the site into the set for Waterloo Road.
Stand by. Hello. No.
Oi, pack it in.
It's now filming its 7th series there, but that'll be the last made in Rochdale. From April, the series will move to Scotland. Shed Productions says the programme's outgrown its present site. The controller of BBC Drama Commissioning, Ben Stevenson, paid tribute to Rochdale and the local community who've taken the hit series to their hearts, he said, over the last 7 years. The producers promise an explosive storyline to end the 7th series, which will see a number of current teachers and pupils moving away to set up a new academy in Scotland. Eleanor Moritz, BBC Northwest Today.
Now, he is a football legend who attracted as much attention off the pitch as on it. Now a hit music, Best Life is Dancing Shoes. The George Best story has already broken records in Belfast. Our reporter Eunice Muller went along to today's launch in Salford.
From the balcony here at the Lowry, you can see Old Trafford over my shoulder. So what better place then to hold the English premiere of a new musical based on the life of George Best. And Aidan, you'll be playing this football legend. Just have a look at that number 7 shirt again, shall we? And a huge responsibility.
Yeah, a massive responsibility, especially seeing as George Best is probably one of the most famous footballers to have ever lived and made his name here in Manchester.
What have you brought to the role?
Well, you know, I played George Best through lots of different stages of his life. I started off playing as a 7-year-old to a 15-year-old and so on until his final days. To, you know, his shyness or to his, when he was drinking a bit.
Let's have a chat with Martin. Last year, 20 see that play in just under 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What a reaction.
Well, I'm writing in the theatre for 30 years and I have never seen a reaction to a play like that. We have dug into his relationships, the special relationships he had in life, starting with his mother. We had tremendous... Make any book story, fantastic stuff. The human story is what's there.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And if you want to catch us here on September.
Eunice there, and I look forward to seeing that actually. Now, here to present the weather on one leg is Heather.
Really on one leg, yeah. It's a running injury. You think I'd know better, wouldn't you? So let me get on with the weather. Mainly dry with some sunny spells as we head through this afternoon. Some really nice spells of sunshine. And most of us get a dry afternoon. The exception, the Isle of Man, where we could see a shower turn the more western parts of Cumbria. But for the rest of us, it's dry and it's... and top Celsius, it'll feel fairly pleasant. Now, this evening is fine and dry, some sunshine. Then 1 or 2 showers on the coast. They'll just get and into the Merseyside coast. Lancashire coast as well, into Cheshire, but for many of us it's a dry night. Temperatures no lower than around about 11 to 13 Celsius. And then tomorrow, a fine dry start. Some showers are going to roll in from the west. 1 or 2 heavy ones. We could even hear a rumble of thunder, but you can see some really nice spells of sunshine in between times, getting to 19 Celsius. And the rest of the week unsettled until the weekend when it starts. Yes, there it is.
Broken.
Broken, yes, absolutely. It's my own stupid fault. No one to blame but me.
You're very brave to come in and do that on one leg. That's it. Back with Kate Sims at 6:30. Bye-bye.
And with a grudge and a gun, Jimmy's in trouble. In Doctors next.
Our celebration of British history continues.
This week we'll be coming from beautiful Stratford-upon-Avon, where we'll be Shakespeare died in.
Plus everything. Industrial Revolution and even Ruby Wax.
National Treasures Live, Wednesday at 7:30 on BBC One and catch up on BBC iPlayer.
On CBBC, nothing gets you... We've got some appetite.